chapter 7, Three of Swords. Back in Carina's house, Bruno was celebrating that his sister left. He wouldn't have to put up with her for another year. He stopped dancing by himself when he realized that there was the possibility that the woman might fly over for Christmas. No, he wouldn't allow that. He needed to come up with a contingency plan. Carina saw Bruno going from joyful to worried. Yes, Rebecca was annoying, but there was no reason to undermine her authority in front of her daughters. The fact that Bruno habitually undermined his sister was part of the reason why the girls didn't feel guilty about running away from their mother. This didn't sit right with Carina. Rebecca and I have always been like oil and water, said Bruno, guessing what Carina was thinking about. While she rises, I'm always the one being pushed to the bottom. I'm not going to let her to continue push me around anymore. I get that, Bruno, but you can tone down your sibling rivalry. But maybe you can tone down your sibling rivalry in front of your nieces, said Carina. Rebecca doesn't tone down her criticism when the girls are around, so why should I offer her the same professional courtesy? Rebuked Bruno, pacing around Carina. I dealt with bullies my entire life, Carina. They don't stop. They have to be stopped. Would you stand still? Barked Carina, stomping on the ground. We are not in court, and I'm not one of your witnesses. If this is so important to you, I will try to show restraint in front of the girls, said Bruno, holding up his pinky. He thought, whatever Rebecca says or does, I will keep quiet. I will nod my head like a good little boy while I die a little on the inside. Carina did a new pinky swear with Bruno, and that night Carina made dinner. Her mother was busy gossiping with her sisters, and she was echoing everything that Rebecca had told her about Bruno's past. The gossip circulated throughout the household, and only Bruno and Carina were not in on the joke. Carina served Bruno his meal, and he devoured it voraciously. And that was one thing she liked. Whether her food was good or bad, he always ate it. He brought the dishes to the sink. He made a motion to clean them, but Carina didn't allow him. He always left the glasses and plates super soapy, and she had suspected that he did the dishes bad on purpose in order to keep her from asking him to do them again. While Carina did the dishes, Bruno slumped over the couch, and he flipped through the cameras. And he slipped through the channels in search of something worth watching, and he eventually settled in the Fuse channel, and he brought out a book to read while a music video was being displayed on the television. Do you want to play chess with me before going to bed? Asked Carina after finishing the dishes. You don't need to force yourself to share in my boring hobby, said Bruno, lowering the book. I have played chess before and not competitively, but I am competent enough to give you a worthy challenge, said Carina. She had been part of the chess club back in high school, and her friend Lysandra had pressured Carina into joining her small club, and she brought out a board to play with Bruno. And the game lasted half an hour, mostly because Bruno was going easy on her. And as for Carina, she was too busy reminiscing about her glory days to pay attention to her game. And she had gotten checkmate a couple of times, but Bruno hadn't called them to see if Carina was paying attention. When it became obvious that she wasn't, he said, checkmate. Do you want to play again? Asked Carina. No, I have a lot of work tomorrow, and I need my beauty sleep, lied Bruno. And he made his way towards the bedroom, and Carina followed after him. And he stopped to add, You don't need to sleep just because I'm going to bed, or do you wish to roll around the hay? If you're tired, we can go tonight without mating, said Carina. It is just that I thought that you may want some company. Aha, so you did want to roll around the hay? Asked Bruno, slowly removing his tank top. No, but since you're insisting, said Carina before losing her train of thought. Bruno removed his pants and undergarment, and he sat on the bed while he waited to see what Carina would do. Carina struggled to maintain eye contact, and in spite of herself, her eyes began to wander. And when she succeeded at looking at Bruno in the face again, she was greeted by a sardonic smile. He sprang from the bed, and Carina's body trembled with excitement as he drew closer. And instead of drawing her into the maiden embrace, Bruno went to the bathroom to wash his face and mouth. And when he returned to the bed, he wrapped himself with the bedsheets before closing his eyes to sleep. Carina sighed in frustration, and she had gotten all wet for nothing. Good night, Carina, said Bruno, and please turn off the lights on your way out. Good night, Bruno, said Carina with a strange inflection in her voice. She left her bedroom extremely annoyed, and a part of her wanted to ask, but her pride wouldn't allow it. She wouldn't ask for it, she wouldn't beg for it, and besides Bruno was tired, or so he claimed, and maybe he wanted her to seduce him, or maybe he went to sleep because he failed to seduce her. Carina scratched her hair while she struggled to comprehend Bruno. It was then when she saw her cell phone vibrating. Carina, come over, you're missing something spectacular, said Rodrigo. Shouldn't I wake up Bruno? Asked Carina. If he went to sleep already, he's probably feeling ill, and he must have got a bug from one of his nieces, guessed Rodrigo. Becky has sneezed 3 times during her visit, and her first sneeze was a blessing, the second sneeze meant that you were getting money, and the third sneeze meant that you had a cold, and it was a silly family superstition. Carina wrapped herself in a shawl before sprinting across the yard, and she found her family gathered in the living room, and the old VHS player had been dusted off, and in the screen Carina saw a green-eyed toddler drawing. Do you want yogurt? Asked the woman holding the camera. Milk, said the toddler. Then why don't you want yogurt? Asked the voice. Because I don't like it, barked the child before slamming the table in frustration. When the child lifted his gaze, Carina saw 2 angry, piercing green eyes, and nobody needed to tell her that she was looking at baby Bruno. Carina laughed heartily before sitting down beside her mother, and she accepted a bowl of popcorn that her cousin Rodrigo had offered her, and in the next clip, little Bruno was counting animals with his grandma. Now you do it, Grandnana, ordered Bruno, pointing to the workbook. 1 frog, 2 frogs, 3 frogs, said Grandma Ophelia. Muy bueno. Perfecto, said Bruno, encouraging his grandma. Now your turn, said Ophelia. 1 brat, said Bruno. It is rat, said Ophelia. Said Bruno, struggling with the R. Oh. This clip ended after he gave up on saying the word rat properly, and the take consisted of Bruno performing different feats of intelligence, though there was one recording that showed him dancing while watching Flashdance, and Carina smiled sadly, and Bruno used to be such a cute, happy kid, and the death of his grandma must have seriously messed him up. And around the age of 4, Bruno grew tired of being filmed, and he was constantly being interrupted in his game and made to perform for an unseen audience. The second take started with him yelling, "Ya, no más!" and he ran away from his grandma, and the second clip showed the camera falling out the window, and clearly Bruno had attempted to get rid of the annoying piece of technology. So I guess Bruno won't be happy to have us watching this film, said Carina before taking a handful of popcorn. Bruno is anything but camera shy, said Rodrigo, and back when we played football, he was always the guy we sent to talk to the reporter, and his eloquence always made our team look smart. The next couple of clips showed Bruno struggling to play basketball, and he also struggled with his tricycle. He wasn't very active in his early youth, and the final clip showed him by a stop sign. Where are you going, Bruno? Asked Grandma Ophelia. I'm leaving this family. You can come with me, or I can go alone, said Bruno. Oh, Bruno, Rebecca didn't mean to yell. She's just not used to dealing with small children, said Ophelia apologetically. Well, I'm not used to being yelled at, barked Bruno. Oh, please forgive her, Bruno. She just didn't want you in the kitchen while she was cooking. The fries she was making you were spilling hot oil. You could have gotten burned, explained Grandma Ophelia. Be that as it may, she didn't have to yell at me for an hour, barked Bruno. It was only 2 minutes, said Ophelia. It felt like an hour, said Bruno, exaggerating. Can we go home now, Bruno? Asked Ophelia. Fine, I'm going to forgive Rebecca, but only to make you happy, said Bruno. It's that camera on. Sheesh, turn it off. The television started to display static before turning to blue. Movie night was officially over. Is that all the tapes? Asked Rodrigo, who needed more teasing material. The other thing Rebecca left without was a photo album, said Bruno, bringing out the album. And Rodrigo flipped through it over the top before commenting, Boring. Mom, where do you keep the camcorder? In the attic, 4th box on the left, said Barbara. And why do you want it? I'm going to film myself and my girlfriend mating, laughed Rodrigo. Liar, you don't have a girlfriend, said Barbara, laughing. I know. I don't want I don't want to know what you plan to do with that camera, and I don't... No, I know. I know what you plan to do with that camera, and I don't want to know. Rodrigo sprang upstairs to get the camera, and after rummaging through the tapes, he decided to record over one of his old football matches. It was not like he was ever going to play that sport again. That part of his life was over. He was a lawyer with a rickety elbow that tended to act up whenever the weather dropped a few degrees. Carina saw the time, and it was 20 minutes before midnight, and on her way back to her house, she saw a shadow lurking about in the gardens. The shadow peeped through her bedroom window before fleeing into the night, and her heart began racing, and she wrapped her shawl around her shoulders before returning to the main house. "And what's the matter, Carina?" asked on seeing her daughter as white as a sheet. "There was a pervert looking through my bedroom window," said Carina. "There was a what?" asked Unla, alarmed. "I don't know if it was a pervert. All I saw was a shadow looking through my window before running away. And can one of the guys escort me back to my house?" asked Carina, still trembling. Rodrigo left the bedroom with his samurai sword, and he escorted Unla and Carina back to their house, and together with Horacio, Rodrigo did an entire patrol around the perimeter of both houses. And once they were certain that the danger had passed, they returned home. The gates were closed, the alarm was turned on, and the lights in the gardens were set to the brightest setting. They had never been robbed before, but it was a first time for everything. And Rodrigo that night barely slept, and he would get up every half hour whenever he heard an unfamiliar sound. And Carina too echoed her cousin's restlessness, though she eventually fell into a heavy slumber due to mental exhaustion. The following morning came, and Carina awoke to the sound of the alarm, and before she had a chance to turn it off, someone else turned it off for her, and her disoriented eyes widened when she saw a person standing on top of the bed. "Good morning, lovebird," said Rodrigo while holding the camcorder. "Oh, for crying out loud, you nearly gave me a heart attack," barked Carina, wheezing. And Rodrigo jumped from the bed to get a close-up view of Bruno's face, and his friend slowly opened his green eyes, and when Bruno saw the camera, he closed his eyes before going back to sleep. "Oh, Johnny," he said, "5 more minutes, Grandma." He had forgotten that his grandma was dead, and for a few blissful moments he experienced true happiness, the type he had not felt in a long time. "And not your grandma," said Rodrigo, bursting his bubble. Of course you're not. You couldn't be her," said Bruno, now finally awake. "My grandma is dead. She's dead, and I have nothing and nobody." Bruno was overcome with a crying fit, and Rodrigo feeling terrible over the camera, and his brain had not gone as planned. "Come now, Bruno, don't say that you have us," said Carina, hugging her boyfriend. "Dear, let it all out." "You can call me Grandma if you would only stop crying, Bruno," said Rodrigo apologetically, and he took his friend's hand to show him that he was not alone. "Please, I'm sorry, man. That was a terrible joke idea. I didn't mean to make you cry." Bruno took deep breaths until he took over his emotions, and he left the bed to shower and get ready for work. And he didn't speak a word during breakfast, and Carina would try to break the silence, but she was afraid of triggering another crying fit. This was the first time she had seen Bruno cry, and she was surprised by the fact that she too had been tempted to cry as well, and it pained her to see him suffering so much. At times like this, Carina fancied that she must indeed be in love with Bruno. Men had cried in front of her before, and one could almost say that Carina was an expert at reducing men to tears, and not on purpose, just incidentally. She wanted to make it better, but she didn't know how, and she made a special lunch bag for Bruno, and she packed it with all the special treats she knew he liked. The couple went their separate ways, and Bruno carpooled with Rodrigo to the law firm while Carina drove to the clinic, and she saw her usual patient as well as a new child, and there was something off about him. He looked a tad yellow, and just to be safe she ordered a bunch of blood works, and more specifically she wanted to check if his liver was doing what it was supposed to. And the hours rolled swiftly while she was in work mode. She only thought about her patients, and during lunchtime she remembered that Bruno existed, and this naturally made her quite somber. "Trouble in paradise," asked Lysandra, and she was a homely brunette with a round face, button nose, and intense black eyes, and her mouth had a well-defined laugh line she was meaning to fix with Botox. And she was 3 years older than Carina, and since she had graduated first, she was further up the food chain as far as reputation was concerned. And since she had become a doctor first, she was the one who helped Carina get this job. And the maiden was Carina's only college friend, and due to the demanding careers, the maiden had never gotten the chance to live the frat life. Everything is fine, more or less, and Bruno woke up crying because he was missing his grandma, said Carina. Then go see her, said Lysandra. His grandma is dead, Lysandra, said Carina. Again, go see her. It might be cathartic for him to visit his grandma's grave, said Lysandra. I don't know, there are some folks that are allergic to cemeteries, guessed Carina. Nobody likes to be reminded of their own mortality, said Lysandra, vibing with her friend. Both maidens continued to gossip about their respective mates, and Lysandra complained about her husband's ever-increasing waistline, while Carina worried that her man was thinning down to a skeleton. And lunch break eventually came to an end, and she spent the rest of the day filling up patient charts, and she concluded the bureaucratic aspect of her work at 4. Alright, that's the end of that chapter.